Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm talking about my Week 5 NFL 2021 Power Rankings. I do this series on the channel every single week. Every Sunday night, I talk about my Power Rankings for the NFL for this week. I usually do them before Monday Night Football, so usually the Monday Night Football game doesn't impact these ratings, but a lot of times the Monday Night Football game wouldn't have much impact on them anyways. Most of the time, it's a pretty, it pretty much aligns with what I already had down. If there's any issues, I might make another video, but I'm pretty confident that tomorrow night's game won't impact these much. Again, I apologize if I put your teams lower or higher than you think they should be. These are just my honest, genuine opinions based off of how each team has performed. And we've kind of gotten enough into the season where Week 1 kind of doesn't indicate a whole lot anymore. For the first few weeks, I took Week 1 into consideration, but Week 1 is weeks off now. Teams have been settling in, and it's kind of on the background for now. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. First off, we have the dumpster fire as always. We have a new king of the dumpster fire. The New York Jets are no longer the king of the dumpster fire. The Jacksonville Jaguars are now at number 32. The Jaguars have extended their losing streak to 19, tying the 2007 to 2008 Detroit Lions. The Jaguars are new kind of bad now. If they lose one more, then they're worse than the 0-16 Lions. Ironic enough, the Lions are number 2. They are 0-4 this year. We've quickly learned that Jared Goff was not an all-world quarterback, and Matthew Stafford did not suck. They were just on the wrong teams. At number 30, we have the Houston Texans. The Texans had a big win Week 1 against the Jaguars, and then they've looked how we expected the Texans to look so far the rest of the year. And the Atlanta Falcons are at number 29. So far, the Falcons only have one win this season, and they just took another loss this week to the Washington football team. In a close game, but it's Washington. They're not that much better than the Falcons, but either way, Atlanta's been all over the place this year. The next category is somehow won a game. This includes the Jets, the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Steelers. The Jets won against Tennessee this week, and the Giants won against the Saints this week. Really weird teams for two of the worst teams in the league to beat, but I don't know. The Jets almost lost on a missed field goal at the end of the Titans game, or they almost tied from a missed field goal, and the Giants just won. It was a close game, but the Giants just were winning most of the game, and then they ended up winning. Weird week for both of them, but I don't expect either of them to have either of these games to have long-lasting implications on any of the teams involved. Number 26, we have the Miami Dolphins, and number 25, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of these teams won their only game Week 1, and they've looked devastatingly bad since then. Miami put up a good game against the Raiders last week, but they got shut out by Buffalo, and they looked terrible this week. Losing to a Colts team that has not won a game yet. They lost to the 0-3 Colts. Steelers, on the other hand, beat the Buffalo Bills Week 1, and then they've gotten absolutely demolished in the next 3 games. The next one is not our year. We have Washington football team leading this one at number 24. We have the Bears at number 23. We have the Eagles at 22. We have the Colts at 21. The Colts have been sitting around 27 or 28 the whole season because they've had a tough schedule. I've said in every video, once the Colts win a game, they'll get bumped up because they have had one of the hardest schedules so far in the entire league. This year they played an opponent that had 10 wins last year and was looking okay, especially coming off of that close loss to the Raiders. But they came out with the win against Miami this week, and it was a very comfortable win. So I bumped the Colts up to number 21. The Eagles haven't looked great, but they haven't looked terrible. They won Week 1 against the Falcons in demolition fashion. Since then, they've played some close games against good teams, but they haven't been able to pull out a win. Number 23, we have the Bears. I'm surprised the Bears have 2 wins. They beat the Bengals in an upset, and they just haven't looked phenomenal. And Washington so far has beaten the Giants and I think the Jets. So they're number 24, but oh yeah, they beat the Giants and Washington and the Falcons. That's who they beat. So they're at number 24, but it's not a pretty 24. At number 20, we have the New England Patriots, and number 19, we have the Minnesota Vikings. I know a lot of people are going to be very upset with me for having the Patriots at number 20, especially ahead of Washington and the Bears, who are 2-2. The reason why I have the Patriots at 20 is because we did not look like a 1-3 team today. We looked better than Tampa. We couldn't get the running game going, and Mac Jones took the team on his back and should have won the game. We had terrible play calling. The play calling was horrendous. The refs were all over the place for both teams. There were some terrible calls against the Bucks, but there was also some terrible calls against the Patriots. We forced a fumble in our own territory on a kickoff that Matthew Slater was out of bounds for about 37 hours before, so it got called back. And that was after we fumbled it in our own territory on offense. There was just a lot of weird stuff that happened in that game that just shouldn't have, and there's a lot of universes where the Patriots win that football game. That being said, I really don't think that me being a Patriots fan have impacted my rating of our team, and I sincerely apologize if you guys think that it does. At number 19, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who have been consistently good this year. They beat Seattle last week in pretty good fashion, but they've also had some really tough losses, including a loss to the Bengals. So they've been an up and down team, but they're sitting at 1-3, and I think that they're the best 1-3 team in the league right now. Moving on, we have the Bengals, the Broncos, and the 49ers. Bengals and Broncos are both 3-1, and the 49ers are 2-2. The 49ers have had a tougher schedule than both of these teams, but they haven't looked too impressive in their wins. They beat the Eagles, and they beat the Lions, and neither of them were very impressive games. They beat the Eagles by 6, and they beat the Lions by 8. Their other two games, they lost to the 49ers and the Seahawks. So they've only played two decent teams so far, and they lost both of those games. Same with the Vikings. The Vikings have played. Same with the Broncos. The Broncos have played one good team so far this year, and they got absolutely demolished by the Ravens this week. It wasn't even close. Their only wins are against the Jets, the Giants, and the Jaguars. So the Broncos are 3-1, but it's not a very impressive 3-1. I'm curious to see how they play their very hard schedule the rest of the season, and I expect them to drop week by week as they play more and more hard teams. The Bengals are sitting at 18. They've had a really up and down season. They lost to the Bears, they beat the Vikings, they beat the Jaguars, and they beat the Steelers. So they really haven't played anyone either. The highest rated team they've played on my list is the Vikings, and the Vikings are rated lower than them. So haven't been too impressed by the Bengals, but they have had some promising characteristics of their team. And I think that they could potentially get the 7th seed in the AFC. Our next category is Headache City, because these teams are just all a headache to place, and I just decided to put them in a tier. The Seahawks, the Titans, and the Saints are all 2-2. The Seahawks have lost to the Vikings, and the Titans. The Titans have lost to... No, they beat the Titans beat the Seahawks. They lost this week to the Jets, and they lost week 1 to somebody. And the Saints lost this week to the Giants, and they lost to the Panthers. But they beat the Patriots and they beat the Packers 38-3. So this whole category, these teams are just confused. They don't know what their offense and their defense is. They score points on defense. Their offense is, I don't know. I have no idea where to put any of these teams. The Titans can only win if Derrick Henry gets over 100 yards, and even then, they still don't win sometimes, hence today. The Seahawks, Russell Wilson has like a perfect pass rating on the season, but their defense is horrendous like last year, and the Saints are just confused. Some days their defense is winning games for them, some days their offense wins games for them, and some days they just are bad. So I really don't know where to put these teams, so I just kind of put them together. And I think that they're all like playoff teams, but they just haven't shown it yet. At number 12, we have the Carolina Panthers. At number 11, we have the Cleveland Browns. And at number 10, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are 2-2, the Browns are 3-1, and the Panthers are also 3-1. The Panthers have had a fairly easy schedule so far this year, with the exception of playing the Saints, which was a tough game. This week, they had their first game against a playoff opponent, the Cowboys, and they got beaten pretty bad. I think the final score was like 38-26, which doesn't seem that bad, but it was a blowout of a game. The Panthers were losing the entire time, and they got some pity points at the end of the game. So I wasn't expecting that out of the 3-0 Panthers, but this was a good week to show us what the Panthers and Broncos really are. At number 11, we have the Cleveland Browns. The Browns lost week 1 to the Chiefs, and then they've continued to win their next 3 games. This week was a very, very questionable win against the Minnesota Vikings. They won 14-7. Their offense didn't look there. They just didn't look like a playoff team this week, even though they did come out with the victory. The Vikings defense has been one of the worst defenses in the league over the last 2 years, and the Browns only scored 14 points. So I think Cleveland is a very strong team, and they're definitely a playoff contender, but I need to see them win some more games before I can put them much higher. And at number 10, we have Kansas City. Kansas City's 2-2. They've lost to the Chargers, and they lost to the Ravens. They have looked like Kansas City in their 2 wins. They haven't looked like Kansas City in their 2 losses, but the win this week was against the Philadelphia Eagles, so it wasn't the most impressive thing in the world. The Browns and the Chiefs both did move up 1 spot due to the Panthers moving down below them. But they'll need to win some more games and look like the Kansas City Chiefs before I can put them much higher. Their defense gave up 30 points to the Philadelphia Eagles, which is as bad as the Falcons' defense. So they need to fix their defensive problems before they can move any higher than 10. At number 9, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs were number 5 last week. They're now number 9. Their offense just wasn't together today. Their running game was great, but that's because the Patriots' running defense is absolutely terrible. Their passing game was bad. Brady was through 50%. He didn't have any passing touchdowns. The Bucs were just all over the place on offense today, and they only scored 19 points, which is their lowest of the year. Probably one of their only games below 20 points in the last 2 seasons. They just didn't look like the Buccaneers, and so they're getting a timeout this week and they've also lost 2 games in a row. They lost to the Rams. Oh, they didn't lose today, sorry. They are 3-1. They only lost to the Rams. They did not lose today. But they just didn't look impressive, especially coming off of a loss. Number 8, we have the Baltimore Ravens, and at number 7, we have the Green Bay Packers. Both of these teams lost week 1. The Ravens game was a closer game than the Packers game was, but both of these teams lost week 1, and then they've gotten better and better and better as the season went on. They're both 3-1, and they're both looking like 3-1 teams right now. At number 6, we have the Chargers, and number 5, we have the Raiders. The Chargers and Raiders are playing each other tomorrow night, so no matter what happens in that game, I don't expect, unless it's a blowout, then I don't really expect my opinion of either of these teams to change. I think there will be a very close game tomorrow night, and the Chargers and Raiders have both played good seasons so far. The Raiders are 3-0 against 3 strong teams, and the Chargers are 2-1. They've played they lost to the Cowboys 20-17, but they beat Kansas City. So Cowboys being their only loss so far, and the Cowboys looking fantastic the last couple of weeks. The Chargers really are looking like a pretty solid team. At number 4, we have the Cowboys. They improved in their ranking this week because they've been consistent. I was looking for consistency out of them after they only beat the Chargers by 3. And then they've looked consistent the last 2 weeks. The Cowboys lost week 1, so I knocked them down a bit. They didn't play too impressively against the Chargers, and then they didn't play too impressively the next week in their win. But this week they looked like one of the best offenses in the league 2 weeks in a row, and so they've earned their spot at number 4. And at number 3, we have the Rams coming off of a devastating loss to the Cardinals. It was a terrible game. The Rams' offense was confused. Their defense played horribly. It was not the same Rams game we saw last week against Tampa Bay. So the Rams are still sitting solidly number 3. They're still one of the best teams in the league, but I had to knock them out of the NFL's elite for this week because that game just didn't look like the NFL's elite. This is the first time on the channel we've ever had 2 teams in the elite category. We have the Arizona Cardinals and we have the Buffalo Bills. Again, week 1 is kind of into the background by now. Buffalo's lost to the Steelers is old history. They're 3-0 in the last 3 weeks. They have 2 shutouts. They're playing phenomenal football. They have arguably the best offense and the best defense in the entire league right now, and they definitely have the biggest point differential. And Arizona is 4-0, and they've beaten the Rams. I think they beat the Seahawks. They're having a phenomenal season. They're putting a phenomenal season together. And these were my 2 teams in my Super Bowl prediction video. Link in the description. I made a Super Bowl prediction video last week, and this was my Super Bowl prediction. I said that the Rams would lose to the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game, and the Cardinals would go on to face the Buffalo Bills. And look what happened last week. This week, the Rams lost to the Arizona Cardinals, and now the Cardinals and Bills are 1-2. I had Cardinals at like 5. They've been moving up the ranks as they've won games. Buffalo took a dip week 1, but they've been coming back up, and now they're back at number 2. So I think these are the 2 best teams in the league, and I think that I'll have a very hard time finding people who disagree. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you are new. Comment down below what you guys think about my power rankings and what you guys would have your power rankings be for this week. I love doing the series with you guys, and I love seeing all your responses. So thank you guys for the support. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. We're so close, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.